Welcome to Business Nigeria. This Thursday, I am Yemisi Lanre Idowu. First up in the news today, the Association of the Bureau de Change Operators of Nigeria is asking that the CBN put an end to the multiplicity of foreign exchange windows and the resultant multiple exchange rate regime in the country. Acting President Gwadabe Aminu says the issue of multiple rates is not helping companies to plan. He urged the CBN to work towards a single exchange rate that will drive the economy. And in the telecom sector, the sector has contributed to gross domestic product, and it has hit about 10%. That's coming from the Executive Vice Chairman, Nigerian Communications Commission, Professor Umar Dambata, who disclosed this in Lagos, and it confirmed that the industry has made significant impact in transforming the economy. He expressed the country's commitment towards the development of telecommunication and ICT, ensuring prompt services and affordable rates for citizens. All right, let's focus on a topic today now. It's been more than 5 months since President Muhammadu Buhari presented the 2018 budget to the National Assembly, and 4 months into the fiscal year, it appears the budget may be further delayed. The government's intention was to change the trajectory and return to normal financial year, which begins in January and ends in December. But with this development, the intention seems far-fetched. It was exciting when President Buhari submitted the 2018 budget to the National Assembly on November the 7th last year. While presenting the 8.6 trillion appropriation bill, the president noted that the projected expenditure would drive rapid economic recovery. The organized private sector, however, and other businesses have expressed fear regarding concerns about the implications of the delayed passage on the economy. Well, let's get financial analyst Nemeka Obiariri's perspective on this. It joins me via Skype. Many thanks for your time, Mr. Obiariri.
Thanks for having me, Yemisi.
Yes, not apportioning blames now. It has almost become fashionable for the National Assembly to delay the passage of the national budget, and this is having, negative effect on the economy. What's your take?
Yemisi, I don't want to apportion the blame on the National Assembly alone. The National Assembly will not deliberately delay the passage of the appropriation bill that was presented to it since November 7th, 2017. What I see here is a system failure. What I see here is a lack of coordination, lack of planning, lack of interface between the executive arm of government and the legislative arm of government. What I see here is lack of focused leadership at both the executive and legislative levels. Yemisi, the law is very clear. Democracy is at practice here. The executive arm of government is designed to design and provide the budget framework and template for how our resources are generated and dispensed. The National Assembly represents far wider spectrum of Nigerians. We have 109 members of the Senate and over 300 and something members of the House of Rep. They provide representation even deeper to the grassroots. And the law is very clear here. The National Assembly is there to appropriate and to allocate resources to critical areas of national need. What the executive arm of government should have done, ab initio. You know, one of the reasons that we are suffering in this country is the issue of impunity. The presidency and the National Assembly, they are co-equal arm of government, same thing with the judiciary. Under normal circumstances, at the onset, when the ministries, the departments and agencies were to start embarking on budget formation, they should have carried along the various committees of the National Assembly, the joint committees in the Senate and the House of Rep. What we are talking about here are resources of the people. What we are talking about here are how these resources are put together and how they are dispensed. Remember that under the democratic setting, the presidency and National Assembly represent the interest of the wider 180 million Nigerians on how our resources are sourced and managed. What we would have expected is that those of them in the ministries, those of them in the department, those of them in the agencies should have from day one coordinated this budget formation and everything with the National Assembly. The committees, various committees. Basically, what we'll have been having now, if the right things were done at the right time, what we'll have expected is that at the time the president presented the budget November 7, will have been for the wider house to look at the reports of the committees, dot the I's and cross the T's. And I'm sure by December 31st, 2017, we'll have done and dusted with the budget proposals. But the problem we have is that those of them in the executive act as if they are Lord of the Manors, forgetting the fact that the National Assembly play a very critical role. They are the ones that will say, after the executive arm of government have done what they're supposed to do, the representative of the people are the ones that are supposed to, okay, hey, you put social amount of money for education. We think our people need social amount, put it there. But the problem we have here is that we have a quasi-unitary system of government where the executive arm of government acts as if they are the laws of the manors that cannot be questioned. So at this period now, the National Assembly, they are bent on dissecting all the numbers, looking at the proposals, looking at the assumptions to ensure that pardons are not there. And of course, you know very, very well that one of the reasons why members of the MDA do not present these things from the onset or carry members of the National Assembly onset from that, most of them go about pardoning the bills like we experienced in 2016, like we experienced in 2017. And going forward, I think what we should do is to provide a harmonized budget calendar that will carry everyone along.
All right, let me come in here now. Let's look at some statistics. In as much as I say we shouldn't apportion blames, of course, there is some lagging in the area of the executives, especially when it comes to the MDAs, and also some committees in the National Assembly. Now, in the past 5 years, statistics had shown that the average percentage expenditure of overall national budget implementation was 22%, and in 2017, the implementation of the capital component was only 21%, and it says that's the lowest in 5 years. Now, if this budget is eventually passed, we don't know when it will be passed, but what's the implication to the economy if we have what we have in these statistics?
The implication is wide because one, remember that stakeholders in the economy, both in the public and private sector, depend on the provisions of this budget to draw wider policy outlook and even to plan investments and other things. Now we don't even know the direction, we don't even know the trajectory where we're going to. The implication here is that, remember again, like you pointed out, we have two aspects of the budget, the recurrent expenditure and the capital expenditure. The capital expenditure is applied to develop infrastructure, to build up the critical infrastructure deficit in the economy. Where we are talking about here, we are entering November and May 2018, yet the budget for 2018 has not been passed. What this simply means is the multiplier effect that are associated with government spending, especially as it boosts disposable income and consumption, will be affected. Also, capital expenditure will also be affected because most of the things that are planned will not be executed timely as expected. Of course, it will impact on overall economic performances. And I think we need to put a stop to this. One of the things that pains me so much is that we have people in the right places who should have been doing the right thing. Let us take, for instance, the presidency. We have made this suggestion severally. In the presidency, we have a chief of staff who happens to be a former CEO of a bank, well-read, well-educated, a man that is very, very experienced. We have suggested and advised that in the presidency, they should have what we call a special forensic advisory unit in the president that coordinates the activities of the MDA. For somebody like Abba Kyari, who was a former CEO of a bank, we don't expect the MDAs who is working with the presidency. They expect the MDAs not to carry along the committees of National Assembly in putting together the budget proposal. What they should have done was to set up a lean advisory unit in the presidency that will coordinate the MDAs, that will ensure that the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed, so that we don't continue to experience this budget overlap year in, year out. We should have it because one of the problems we have is that there is lack of coordinations. The ministries, the department, and the agencies, they are running their own things. Nobody seems to bother about the actions and consequences of their of some of these things on the well-being of the masses, on the well-being of our economy, on the well-being of Nigerians. There should be a coordinating unit, people by crack team of experienced, knowledgeable, and deeply multi-sectoral versatile Nigerians. We have many Nigerians that can do this job, working with the chief of staff, that will ensure that by the third quarter of every year, that the MDAs have put in their budget proposal in the way it should be, and that the units, the committees in National Assembly are carried along.
All right, Ms. Anna Mary, let me come in here. Yes, let me come in here. We have to take a break, but just to prep you before that break, it's pre-election year, about over 200 days to the next election. And we want to know, we know that yes, the delay to the poor implementation will also have an effect on capital components which drive the economy and infrastructure. But what does it say pre-election year? But we'll get your thoughts after this break on Business Nigeria. You're watching Business Nigeria. We've been discussing the delayed passage of the 2018 appropriation bill. I've been speaking with financial analyst Nemeka Obiariri. Yes, I'm talking about the pre-election year. Yes, with the delayed passage of that budget, a lot is affected, especially when we talk about revenue. And this is pre-election year. What happens? Is there probably, and very briefly at that, is there a political undertone to this passage of the budget, or it's just the fashion?
I don't think there's any political undertone to it, and I don't think it's affecting our revenue. Currently, we are producing oil, we are producing crude oil at above 2 million barrels per day, and the prices of the crude oil have gone above $70 per barrel, and it's trading around $74 now. Revenues are coming in. It's not affecting the activities of the Customs and Excise Department at the ports. It's also not affecting the activities of the Federal Inland Revenue Services. So it's not affecting our revenue. What is basically happening here is the interplay of forces in the executive and the legislative arm of government. What is happening here is the flexing of political muscles. See, hear me say, it's high time we understand the whole essence. Every arm of government understand their role. Legislators have a clear role here. They are supposed to act as checks and balances to executive recklessness. They are supposed to ensure that our monies are appropriated and dispensed as it should be. Now, as of April 2018, we are hearing that most of the ministries, departments, and agencies have not yet defended their budget proposal. Why? Because they did not carry along the committees. You see, the problem, we must come to this understanding that the monies generated and the monies being dispensed belong to 180 million Nigerians. The few of them in the executive and legislative of government are there at our own mercy. They are there at our own discretion. They are there to serve our purpose, to work according to the will of the masses. But the problem we have here is that we have very few that in the executive that believe that they carry all the powers, which is not so. If the right things have been done, if there have been ample coordination, if there have been ample handshake, across the divide, we won't be having this problem.
All right.
Going forward, we should do the right things at the right time.
All right. In one sentence, before I let you go, how do we handle the deficit? We saw that last year there was a deficit of 1.7 trillion naira as against the 2.18 trillion earmarked in the budget. How do we handle these baggages that we keep taking on?
But let me see, go back and look at the budget parameters again. The budget benchmark was anchored on $44 per barrel of crude oil, and output was put at 2.2. As I talk to you, oil has been trading over the last 90 days at above $70 per barrel. Therefore, we have excess earnings of almost about $65 million every day. We shouldn't be talking about deficit now, because I think oil is trading at almost 50% above our budget benchmark. And if you look at the deficit in the budget for 2018, you will discover that if we are to prudently administer resources the way we want it, we won't have much deficit. But the problem I have, and the problem I continue to worry about, is the issue of the the outrageous recurrent overhead in the Nigerian economy. In 2015, our total personnel cost was about 1.4 trillion. As I talk to you, it's almost inching to 2 trillion. We are spending 600 billion naira above what we have in 2015, despite the fact that we say that we sacked and discovered 60,000 ghost workers. Something is wrong somewhere. Our wage bill wouldn't have increased by 600 billion naira over the last 3 years without any increment in minimum wage, without any increment in personnel wage. And even at the time when we say that we have discovered and they dislodged 60,000 ghost workers, something is wrong somewhere. And that is why most of these MDAs are so scared of carrying along National Assembly, so that some of these things that they hide left and right are not discovered. And we must also point out this, and which is very, very critical. There is nothing transparent about the way we do our budgeting. We were told that they are going to embark on zero budgeting exercise. What has happened with that zero budgeting process?
All right.
Nada.
We may have to stop it there. Financial analyst Nnemeka Obiariri. Unfortunately, we've been talking about diversification, and we know the fall in the crude oil prices led to that recession that we experienced in 2016. But we'll see how that rolls up, pans out. Thank you for your time, Nnemeka Obiariri. We appreciate it.